Dear ladies and gentlemen, good morning to our Dutch audience and good afternoon to our Chinese audience. Welcome to the first episode of our 2021 Hydrogen webinar series with a total of 4 webinar episodes over the course of these 4 weeks. My name is Fons Klein-Twente and I'm the host of today's session. I'm working for the Netherlands Innovation Network in China, Guangzhou, and this first episode of the 2021 Hydrogen webinar series, ladies and gentlemen, is brought to you by the Netherlands Innovation Network in China, the Consulate General of the Kingdom of the Netherlands in Guangzhou, and the UNDP. For this first webinar, we have a very interesting program with various speakers focusing on hydrogen projects in China, experiences from the sector, where we will focus on a more general introduction into the Chinese hydrogen sector and zoom in on the latest policy updates, developments, and hear experiences from several Dutch companies with active hydrogen projects in China. Before I introduce the expert speakers of today, please allow me to first give some background details of this webinar session. The first hour will be a pre-recorded presentation session with subtitles, and all the speakers and panelists are already online joining the session live. So there's the possibility for the audience to ask questions to the experts via chat while the webinar is progressing. After the presentation session, there will also be a live interactive discussion session with a simultaneous translator. We really recommend everybody to already type your questions in the Q&A during the webinar, so our translator has the opportunity to provide us with a translation before the start of the interactive discussion. If you wait with typing your questions till the end of the presentation session, chances are that we are not able to address your inquiries during the interactive discussion. Thank you. Now, please allow me to present with great honor and respect the expert speakers that are with us today, starting with Wang Wanyi, Program Manager for the Hydrogen Economy Portfolio at the United Nations Development Programme in China, who will give us a general overview of China's latest hydrogen developments and policy updates. Then we continue with Hui Zhao, Technical Director and Senior Engineer at High Power, who will introduce several of the latest hydrogen pilot projects in China. Then Ellen Liu, General Manager at SHV Energy Guangzhou, who will give us an update of dates on the latest hydrogen developments and the country's future hydrogen plans. Now, we start this session with an opening speech and introduction overview of the Hydrogen webinar series by Michiel Bierkens, the Consul General of the Kingdom of the Netherlands in Guangzhou. Michiel Bierkens, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Fons. Dear panelists, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning to our Dutch audience and xiao hao to our Chinese audience. I'm very pleased to be here again today and address all of you in this first episode of our 2021 Hydrogen webinar series, which is organized by the Dutch Consulate General in Guangzhou and the Netherlands Innovation Network in China, in cooperation with UNDP. After the successful completion of our popular Hydrogen webinar series with 5 episodes last year, I'm very proud of my team that they continue their efforts in supporting the Chinese and Dutch hydrogen sector by organizing a series of even deeper and more in-depth hydrogen webinars with 4 episodes this month, every Wednesday of the week, starting today. To reach the carbon neutrality goals in 2050 and 2060, hydrogen is a hot topic for both the Netherlands and China. In order to switch to a hydrogen economy, there are still many questions to solve and issues to tackle. So what are the main issues that China and the Netherlands are facing? What are the latest strategies and policies? And where are the opportunities and challenges for Dutch and Chinese hydrogen parties? We will try to find the answers to these questions and more in the 4 episodes of our webinars. In this first episode, we work together with UNDP to learn more about hydrogen policy in China, as well as the latest technology developments. We will also learn about the challenges and opportunities of doing business in the Chinese hydrogen sector from the experience of Dutch companies already active here. In the second episode, we collaborate with TKI New Gas to learn more about the hydrogen policy in the Netherlands, as well as the latest projects and technology developments. We hope to raise the interest of Chinese parties to also reach out to us and seek opportunities in the Dutch hydrogen sector. In the third episode, we team up with the Guangdong Science and Technology Bureau to focus purely on the research side of hydrogen fuel cells. We will take a deep dive in the latest research developments in China and the Netherlands, and we hope to identify opportunities for research collaboration in the future. In the fourth and final episode, we work together with Holland Home of Wind Energy and the Netherlands Enterprise Agency RVO to learn more about the use of offshore wind to create green hydrogen. This is a topic in which China and the Netherlands are both very active in order to realize operating projects in the near future. It's very nice to see in the digital audience today some familiar faces from yesterday's hydrogen roundtable discussion and from the many other hydrogen events we organized in the past year. To you, I say welcome back. But of course, it is also great to see a large group of new faces in the audience, and to you I say warmly welcome. I hope that our webinar will help you to learn more about the hydrogen sector in China and in the Netherlands. And if you have any questions or requests afterwards, please feel free to reach out to us. Last but not least, I would like to thank all the webinar speakers and panelists, as well as the organizers for the initiative to bring the hydrogen sectors of China and the Netherlands closer together. I hope that you will enjoy our webinars and that it will result in even more Chino-Dutch initiatives in the hydrogen sector. Thank you, and back to you, Fons.
Thank you very much for your opening words, Michiel Bierkens. We are now transferring to Wang Wanyi, Program Manager for the Hydrogen Economy Portfolio at the United Nations Development Programme in China, who will give us a general overview of China's latest hydrogen developments and policy updates.
好的，谢谢 Fons。在中国和在荷兰的朋友们，大家下午好，早上好。很高兴今年能够再次支持氢能的线上系列研讨会活动。今天呢，我将就 UNDP 开展氢能燃料电池项目的经验，以及国内目前氢能发展的一些基本情况，向大家做简要的介绍。考虑到国内的参会人员对于行业的发展情况都有一些基本的了解，那么接下来我将用英文来介绍 PPT 的内容，用中文来呈现。So first, allow me to explain a little bit about who we are. UNDP works in about 170 countries and territories. We're mandated to support countries achieve the Sustainable Development Goals, as well as international conventions such as the Paris Climate Agreement. In China, our presence has seen over 4 decades, and we've built strong relationship with ministerial and regional government agencies, research institutions, and the private sector through our technical assistance and pilot programs. Last September, President Xi Jinping had pledged to aim to have CO2 emissions peak before 2030 and achieve carbon neutrality before 2060. The IPCC report issued last month has spoken the sobering truth that human influence is unequivocal to warming atmosphere, and that global temperature may reach or exceed 1.5 degrees warming in the next 20 years. If all continues business as usual, we may soon reach a tipping point of dramatic climate change and severe consequences. So, at this critical juncture, governments, academia, and the private sector and all parts of society must support the advancements and commercialization and operationalization of innovative technologies that decarbonizes our economies and promotes a green and inclusive recovery. Green hydrogen development in China has the potential to be the decarbonization solutions in 3 aspects. The first will be electrification of transport. There are 200 million cars, 50 million commercial vehicles running on the roads of China, where the gap between the numbers of 2 types of vehicles are substantial, the total emissions are not. Thus, there is a clear need for the coupling of power battery vehicles and the fuel cell vehicles, given their distinct strengths. The second will be energy transition. Fossil fuel remains to hold a dominant share of China's primary energy consumption, while renewable energy is being scaled up. The curtailment totaled 51.9 billion kilowatt hours last year, and there has long been an inter-area demand consumption imbalance. The third will be decarbonizing industrial feedstock hydrogen. China is the world's largest oil refinery country. It still has a large volume of ammonia and other chemicals production. And green hydrogen can also help decarbonize steel production and other heavy industries in China. So while green hydrogen may not be the whole solution, it is no doubt a key piece of the package. UNDP China has been active in this area for 18 years, supporting the industry since its incubation period. In 2003, we started to work with the Ministry of Science and Technology with support from the Global Environment Facility. Through such a golden triangle and with our industrial partners, we've seen 3 phases of cooperation, from the demonstration of 3 buses during the Beijing Olympics to 6 buses during the Shanghai Expo, to today's endeavor accelerating the commercialization of more than 3,000 fuel cell vehicles in 7 cities. And these 7 cities are Beijing, Shanghai, Zhengzhou, Foshan, Yancheng, Changshu, and Zhangjiakou. The FCV operations in China and the in-operation renewable energy-based hydrogen production under this project has contributed to over 230,000 tons of CO2 equivalent. Our programmatic support focused on policy innovation, infrastructure management, technical assistance for OEMs, component manufacturers, and HRS developers, as well as knowledge sharing. Some policy, technology, standards, financing, international cooperation, and it also comes with an exhibition fair. The conference has seen and over 2,000 participation from over 30 countries in the past 2 years. This year, we're still going to have a 3rd conference, and it's going to take place 10 to 12 November in Foshan. We're also working to support governments to prepare its workforce for a just and inclusive transition through technical, occupational education and training. The focus would still be on hydrogen and fuel cell, and this is being done through policy research, innovation, to solve structural challenges for quality occupation education. We're also developing adequate curriculums and the training of trainers and the integration with industrial actors' needs in talents. So with China's International Center for Economic and Technical Exchanges under the Ministry of Commerce, and also the Rugao Economic and Technological Development Zone, we pilot not only fuel cell vehicles, but also more diversified applications, such as stationary fuel cells as backup power source and combined heat and power applications. The International Hydrogen Fuel Cell Vehicle Congress, which is just as phenomenal, were also held in Rugao for a few years. So looking at China's hydrogen fuel cell economy in the making, there have been several key actors playing a pivotal role. For government agencies, most has been our partner since the beginning. They play a very important role for the research and small-scale pilots of new technologies. Since last year, the NDRC, MOF, MIT, NEA, etc., have also issued policies that really opened up industrial prospects of hydrogen fuel cell in China. We, of course, work with the cream of the cream, some of the key industrial associations and research institutions that we work with are listed on the right. So all of these actors, together with our own efforts, have catalyzed robust policy results as well. Fiscal support initiatives has been rolled out by 5 ministries aimed to support cities who perform well in different areas, including technological development, vehicle procurement, vehicle operations, HRS construction, and also policy support and innovation. On standardization and infrastructure, this year MOHUD released the hydrogen refueling stations technical regulations and the technical standards for vehicles, petrol, diesel, natural gas, and hydrogen refueling. In addition to including hydrogen in the national energy statistics and the revision of China's energy law, which signaled hydrogen as an energy resource, the 14th five-year plan has specifically called to plan for future industries related to advanced science and technology transformation, such as hydrogen and energy storage. So all these signals may mean that an overarching architecture at national and ministerial level for hydrogen development is within reach. So this is China's hydrogen development report by China EV 100, presented in a nutshell. It mapped out the expected hydrogen demand, industry value, hydrogen price, number of refueling stations and vehicles for 2025, 35, and 50. The new energy vehicle technology roadmap 2.0 led by the Society of Automotive Engineers last year gave a more optimistic estimation, especially in refueling stations numbers. But overall, all of these, they send very strong signals of exponential growth of the industry. The hydrogen production pathway, as you can see, still on the China's Hydrogen Development 2020 report, is expected to be mainly by product hydrogen before 2025, although it's going to be coupled with pilots of renewable energy-based water electrolysis. And energy storage. So all these signals may mean that an overarching architecture at national and ministerial level for hydrogen development is within reach. So this is China's hydrogen development report by China EV 100, presented in a nutshell. It mapped out the expected hydrogen demand, industry value, hydrogen price, number of refueling stations and vehicles for 2025, 35, and 50. The new energy vehicle technology roadmap 2.0, led by the Society of Automotive Engineers last year, gave a more optimistic estimation, especially in refueling stations numbers. But overall, all of these, they send very strong signals of exponential growth of the industry. The hydrogen production pathway, as you can see, still on the China's Hydrogen Development 2020 report, is expected to be mainly by product hydrogen before 2025, although it's going to be coupled with pilots of renewable energy-based water electrolysis. And by 2035, there'll be mainly low carbon hydrogen production, such as renewable energy-based electrolysis, hydrogen production coupled with CCUS and byproduct hydrogen with improved utilization efficiency. And by 2030 and by 2050, it will be mainly renewable energy-based water electrolysis with some of the byproduction hydrogen and fuel cell-based hydrogen coupled with CCUS as supplement. The upscaling of refueling stations will also rely on integration with petrol and natural gas stations by 2025. So far, China has also nurtured robust industrial actors along the hydrogen fuel cell value chain. And in this chart, you can see some of the key Chinese companies active in hydrogen production and supply, storage, refueling, as well as fuel cell component manufacturers and system integrators. So in the future, we will continue to promote hydrogen-based solutions to decarbonize the economy of China. We're not only looking at the technical aspects shown here, which is the first will be still fuel cell applications on heavy-duty vehicles, waterways transport in selected areas, and then the second, diversified hydrogen application, which will include mixing hydrogen with fuel, combined heat and power, ammonia, steel refining for the new infrastructure ambition. And third, storage, going beyond 35 megaparts and low pressure solid hydrogen storage, and also 7 megapart storage. 70 megapart storage. And finally, hydrogen production. That includes renewable-based hydrogen electrolysis production, water electrolysis for hydrogen production, and also low-carbon hydrogen production coupling with CCUS technology. But beyond technology, we will also continue to support policy innovations that empowers industrial advancement, and also talent development aspects that will ensure a just and inclusive low-carbon transition. So with this, I thank you very much for listening, and over to you, Franz.
Thank you very much, Wang Wanyi, for this interesting and in-depth overview of hydrogen in China. Then let us continue straight to Hui Zhao, Technical Director and Senior Engineer at High Power, who will introduce several of the latest hydrogen pilot projects in China.
大家好，我是康佳考海波尔新能源科技公司赵辉。现在我给大家介绍一下国内的可再生制氢情况，以及康佳口具体氢能产业链的情况。这个介绍先从这个国内的可再生能源生产这个现状介绍开始。我们中国的可再生能源主要是以风电、光伏发电为主。现在目前中国的这个可再生风电是这个发电量已经逐渐在世界上属于第一的位置，但是这个主要的制氢方式还是主要在化石能源制氢方面，以及工业副产氢方面。电解水制氢，尤其是可再生制氢的这个项目还是比较多，还比较少，只是现在开始的一个示范，这个开始进行了这个工作。电解水制氢在所有的制氢方法里头，目前它的产量是最小的，是不管是在国际上还是在国内，这个产量都是不到4%的产量，还是比较低的。但是中国的目前的氢气产量是全世界最高的，已经达到了2000到3000万吨的这个产量，约占全球氢气产量的30%左右，基本上全部是用于工业领域的。这是中国可再生能源发展的这个趋势。当然，现在目前来说，火力发电还是主要的，但是这个太阳能发电、风力发电，还有核能发电、水力发电正在逐渐每年在增多。我们今天主要介绍的电解水制氢这个技术呢，是这个沥青生产的一个主要的方式。它现在有3个重要的这个工艺来实现这个电解水制氢，其中最大的这个生产规模最大的就是碱性电解水制氢，它是最成熟、工业最成熟、性价比最高的生产技术。此外，还有这个氦膜的这个纯水电解技术，当然它这个在中国还是正在逐渐增多，但是规模比较小，还是很小的示范作用比较多。 固体氧化物电解这个执行技术呢，目前还是在实验室阶段，还没有应用到实际应用。国内典型电解水执行是个主流，像国内的中山重工718所，还有苏州电力，还有天津大陆，还有北京中电枫叶等，都是典型电解的一个主力军。他们在国内国际上的这个业绩很多，从每小时1立方到每小时1200标方的这个单体电解槽都有应用。纯水电解呢，在国内呢，主要目前来说是一个示范项目。像国内的这个中科院大考所啊，山东那个赛克赛斯公司啊，他们都有运行的一个这个业绩。在纯水电解方面呢，国外的公司还是占主流的，比如这个挪威的内尔啊，这个还有这个西门子公司，他们的纯水电解是主要的提供商。这是我们国内进行风光电解执行的2个方式，主要是这个根据现场的这个情况来进行这个设计。一般来说，我们目前风光和电网是一块协调进行执行的。这个方法呢，可以呢不受风光电那个波动的影响，可以24小时工作，执行效率很高。但是呢，风电的电价呢要受到这个电网公司的这个控制。此外，还有在风电场直接用风电光伏直接不上网进行电解执行的这个方式，但是呢，这个项目目前来说都是示范性，还没有进行大规模的推广。我下面再介绍一下国内这个可再生能源执行的一个实践吧，主要是以张家口为这个案例进行介绍。张家口，因为它存在着大量的可再生能源，风电和光伏，当地的这个工业又没法完全消纳这么多这个电力，因此有好多这个富裕的风光资源。因此呢，国内好多公司呢在张家口已经开展了很多的项目，进行利用这个当地的风电光伏进行电解水执行的项目。我重点介绍一下张家口执行项目，因为张家口有丰富的这个风电光伏资源。当地的这个发的这个电呢，当地有无法全部消纳，因此呢，很多企业都在张家口地区进行利用这个风电光伏进行电解水执行的项目。其中第一个，我们介绍这个张家口海波尔公司的张家口望山执行厂项目，产能是每小时2000标方，就是每天4吨的经济产量。现在这个工厂已经建成，去年9月1号已经开始投产了。它这个用途是全部供应张家口地区300辆公交车的运行，同时呢还保证2022年张家口冬奥会这个车辆示范运行的需求。同时建成的还有这个是张家口这个固原风电执行厂，它是在风电厂直接的这个附近进行电解水执行，项目已经建成。同时，跟壳牌公司合资建设的张家口这个电解水执行厂呢，已经开始建设，预计年底能够建成，它的产量能达到每小时4000标方。同时，还有2个项目正在建设中，比如国家能源集团在张家口上邑风电场进行的这个执行厂项目，是每小时1200标方，还有在国电在张家口赤城也是风电场建的执行厂，是每小时2000标方。这个2个项目同时呢，现在已经开工了，预计呢今年年底呢能够建成投产。此外呢，这是张家口项目，比如在国内建成的这个利用光伏发电，然后电解水执行的项目，比如在宁东的这个新能源每小时6000标方的这个产能已经开始生产了，它主要是用于工业用途方面。我刚才介绍的这几个项目呢，全部采用的是典型电解水执行的工艺。 图片呢是就是刚才介绍的这个张家口海波尔在望山循环经济区建成的这个制氢工厂，它已经现在胜利已经建成了，一批是每小时2000标方，每天4000公斤的经济产量。它采用的是这个张家口这个冀北电网风电光伏的16兆瓦的功率，采用的就是绿电直滤氢，这个用途呢就是张家口公交还有这个冬奥会的氢燃料车辆的示范运行。现在工厂的这个建成了以后呢，这个实力就是制氢厂的综合能耗是每标方氢气是5度电，就相当于是1公斤氢气用55度电的这个能耗。这是张家口公交运行的这个一个现状。张家口公交从2018年开始进行这个燃料电池车公交车的示范，现在已经投入了304辆公交，在张家口10条公交线上每天运行，现在已经运行了1年，而且经历了春夏秋冬各种温度下的运行。这是右边这个图是每天每月的它的运行的这个数据。同时张家口在这个市区已经建成了3座加氢站，在冬奥崇礼赛区已经建成了3座，一共是目前来说6座，可以满足2022年冬奥会期间700辆燃料电池示范车辆的加氢需求。这个左边是张家口纬3路的一个加氢站，这是市区的，右边这是崇礼赛区太子城加氢站。我再介绍一下这个制氢工厂的这个面貌。在张家口海波尔制氢工厂呢，它采用的是绿电直滤氢嘛，主要的生产车间就是这个电解水车间，这是一个主车间。然后它通过压缩把气体充装到长管车送往各个加氢站，同时它还附属一个这个35兆帕的这个加氢站，可以为张家口城区的这个车辆进行加速。同时电解水的副产品氧气通过特殊工艺制成液氧进行这个工业销售。是氢工厂现那个内部车间的一个情况。左边这是电解车间，它是通过4个每小时500标方的这个电解槽进行生产。右边这是个压缩车间，压缩车间氢气通过压缩充装到这个长管拖车以及那个厂内的高压储氢储存。左边这个情况就是高压储存氢气的这个容器，一共是4个45兆帕的高压储氢罐。右边呢，这是跟那个长管拖车的充装情况，它一共有7个充装位，可以每天充将近20多个长管拖车。这个图片呢，反映的是电解水副产氧气制成液氧的情况。这是一个它的一个设备外观的这个图。右边这个是液氧已经成品以后，通过液氧槽车进行运输的情况。现在我再简单给大家介绍一下张家口2022年冬奥会的情况。冬奥会它这个按照它这个需求，每天有将近600到700辆各种燃料电池车进行示范，进行这个为这个运动员工作人员进行这个接送服务。现在我们制氢厂已经开工了，现在目前有3个可以为张家口公交进行这个司机保障。这个图片呢是介绍的，刚才是这个宁夏的宝丰集团为这个工业氢进行的示范项目，他们是通过光伏发电电解水制氢，然后生产这个氢气还有氧气呢作为化工原料进行这个替代这个以前的煤制氢。现在我们看这个所介绍的电解水制氢呢，这个成本来说呢，在这个所有的这个因素里头呢，电费是最高的，电解水制氢的成本将近80%多一些，这个将近是所有的这个制氢这个条件里头，电费是占大头。我们通过分析 这个所有的执行的这个条件以后呢，可以看到呢，在每小时1000标方生产条件的这个条件下呢，氢气的价格呢可以做到18到47块钱一公斤，但是这个主要是跟当地的电价是直接挂钩的，电价的这个成本直接影响到氢气的价格。我们通过分析，在这个风电光伏达到每度电2毛钱左右的时候，氢气的这个成本能够大幅下降。我们预计在2030年左右，我们通过可再生能源，就是滤氢制氢的成本能达到每公斤15块钱。是目前在国内通过那个现场的这个实际案例呢，在每度电1毛5的情况下，电解水制氢的成本能达到1块到1块5，这个价格已经低于这个很多这个大部分的这个通过这个化石能源制氢的成本，跟那个化石能源制氢的这个下限是已经持平了。我们比如在张家口公交这个进站，通过给公交车加注的价格是每公斤30到35元，这个完全这个价格已经和使用汽柴油的加注价格已经是相当了。这个从这个图分析来说，实际运行情况来说，我们实际的如果考虑这个各种生产这个成本的以后呢，目前呢还是比较高，是每公斤差不多是加注价格是35块钱，主要的这个成本是在氢气的制取方面，加注的价格和储运的价格，这也就是占30%，70%的成本还是氢气的生产成本。现在我们从上面分析来说，所有的这个情况来说呢，就是在国内只有扩大氢气制氢的这个规模，才能够降低综合成本。同时呢，我们还要把这个氢气啊、副产氧气啊，包括余热回收啊，这个条件加里头能够降低成本啊。同时呢，要在这个生产场地呢，最好是在那个风电场、光伏场的那个附近进行建设，能够降低这个发挥成本。在这个我再简单的介绍一下张家口冬奥会的情况。张家口冬奥会呢，是2022年这个2月份嘛，它是计划进行700辆差不多这个燃料电池的车的运行，有这个大巴车，还有中巴，还有轿车啊，每天都运行，差不多是每天将近9吨的氢气产量。这9吨的氢气需求呢，是我们张家口通过建设制氢厂完全能够满足需求，完全可以做到通过这个利用这个绿电制滤氢提供给奥运会，实现这个奥运会这个绿色奥运的这个理念。张家口本身自己的这个特点呢，因此呢就规划了差不多每年要将近5万吨到6万吨的氢气滤氢产能，这是在张家口“十四五”规划里头已经进行了规划啊。同时那个风电场那个建这个电解水工厂呢，这个数量目前在全国也是最多的啊。这个张家口这个公交车呢，今年年底就预计能达到400辆，进行全部的这个提供给这个市民绿色出行使用。好，今天我的介绍就到这里，谢谢大家。
Thank you very much, Hui Zhao, for your interesting insights. Before we continue to our next speaker, I would like to kindly remind the audience to already type your questions in the Q&A so our translator has the opportunity to provide us with a translation before the start of the interactive discussion session. Thanks again, Hui Zhao. Then we move on to the next speaker, that is Alan Liu, General Manager at SHV Energy Guangzhou, who will give us an update of their hydrogen activities in China, as well as the challenges and opportunities from their perspective.
大家下午好，我是喜威中国广州市喜然能源有限公司总经理刘飞 Alan。 今天非常荣幸参加荷兰驻广州领事馆组织的氢能发展的网络研讨会。我将为大家介绍一下喜微中国在加氢站领域的发展实践和对未来的思考。今天我将介绍4部分内容，第一部分是公司的简介，第二部分是我们为什么进入加氢站的领域，第3部分是我们的策略和试点，第4部分是我们对未来发展的思考。喜微隶属于荷兰 SHV 集团 ，SHV 集团是成立于1896年的荷兰最大的家族企业，在液化石油气、非规则物体的搬运、动植物的饲料、上游天然气、石油的勘探开采等诸多领域都有广泛的业务部署。喜微1997年进入中国，聚焦于为居民、商业用户、工业用户和交通用户提供清洁的液化石油气产品，并参与液化天然气的业务。在2019年，我们开始布局进入加氢站领域。讲到进入加氢站领域，需要从我们的当初的业务现状去进行介绍。过往喜微中国在车用液化石油气领域具有非常好的部署，车用液化石油气也是喜微最大的这个盈利来源。但是自2018年以后，由于电动公交车和电动出租车的加速推动，我们现金流业务车用气受到很大的影响。我们也在思考未来转型的方向，当初也考虑到充电桩、加油站等等都因为各种原因而无法进行，最终我们选定了氢气作为潜在的一种可能性。那我们进入加氢站领域主要有4个考虑。第一呢，是熟悉这样一个未知的一个领域；第二呢，是希望能够为未来的清洁能源发展做好准备；第3呢，是希望在政策的制定方面能够贡献我们的思考与影响；第4是激发处于衰退业务中的车用气员工的士气。我们的策略主要是考虑到当初发展的不确定性，所以呢，我们采取了一个轻资产的一个策略。等形势明朗的时候呢，我们再去扩大投资版图。考虑到我们拥有非常良好的硬件条件，因为我们的加气站位置都非常好。同时呢，我们的团队在加气站的运营角度来讲呢，有丰富的实践经验，我们的品牌的认知度也非常高，我们和政府与客户的沟通也非常顺畅。但同时也考虑到有非常大的一个阻碍。第一，我们加氢站的土地大部分是非商业用地，而加氢站的发展目前还需要商业用地来支撑。第二呢，是因为投资的较大的不确定性，所以呢，我们决定说聚焦于氢能产业链上的加氢站领域，并聚焦于立足于广州，采取轻资产、保持灵活性的模式，先试点，然后再根据情况拓展。对于试点，我们呢与行川进行了积极的合作。行川通过租用土地建设加氢站，然后与我们合作，委托我们来运营，而行川呢负责供应链的管理和车辆的发展，我们呢提供我们丰富的安全和运营经验，强强联合，共同拓展加氢站业务。由于我们不参与供应链，所以呢，我们避免了投资的风险，也避免产生经营的亏损。我们仅仅向合作方收取一定的服务费用，来学习积累加氢站的运营经验。 那么在2019年的时候呢，我们成功运行了行川投资建设的知识城加氢站，这个加氢站占地2500平米，设计能力是500公斤每天。一开始的时候呢，依赖于场管拖车进行运营，但我们发现随着场管拖车中氢气量的减少，压力开始减少，冲装的时间开始显著延长，从最初的5到8分钟延长到半个小时以上。那后面呢，我们的合作方行川也加设了2个储氢罐，大幅的提高氢气的加注效率。这也是我们在实践中不断发现问题，不断去思考解决问题的一个过程。那么在2020年呢，我们将我们仅仅向合作方收取一定的服务费用，来学习积累加氢站的运营经验。那么在2019年的时候呢，我们成功运行了行川投资建设的知识城加氢站，这个加氢站占地2500平米，设计能力赖于场管拖车进行运营，但我们发现随着场管拖车中氢气量的减少，压力开始减少，冲装的时间开始显著延长，从最初的5到8分钟。这也是我们在实践中不断发现问题，不断去思考解决问题的一个过程。那么在2020年呢，我们将我们原来的液化石油气加气站利康加气站租赁给了行川，由行川进行投资改造，同时我们授权喜微品牌来运营，运营模式与知识城加氢站的模式非常类似，依然由我们来运营，行川来负责供应链的。未来当氢能发展较为明朗的时候呢，我们有权利按照净资产来进行回购。如果大家有关注到氢能行业的发展，会发现2020年是一个非常挣扎的一年，氢燃料电池汽车的销量较2019年显著下滑，主要原因在于国家的补贴政策迟迟没有出台。那么2021年呢，我们会发现有一个巨大的一个改观。今年前几个月的氢燃料电池销量已经得到一个巨大的反弹，但是我们依然要但我们发现随着场管拖车中氢气量的减少，压力开始减少，冲装的时间开始显著延长，从最初的5到8分钟延长到半个小时以上。那后面呢，我们的合作方行川也加设了2个储氢罐，大幅的提高氢气的加注效率。 这也是我们在实践中不断发现问题、不断去思考解决问题的一个过程。那么在2020年呢，我们将我们原来的液化石油气加气站利康加气站租赁给了行川，由行川进行投资改造。同时，我们授权喜微品牌来运营，运营模式与知识城加氢站的模式非常类似，依然由我们来运营，行川来负责供应链的管理和车辆的发展。但是呢，我们在合作的协议中增加了一个我们的回购权，也就是说，未来当氢能发展较为明朗的时候呢，我们有权利按照净资产来进行回购。如果大家有关注到氢能行业的发展，会发现2020年是一个非常挣扎的一年。氢燃料电池汽车的销量较2019年显著下滑，主要原因在于国家的补贴政策迟迟没有出台。那么2021年呢，我们会发现有一个巨大的一个改观。今年前几个月的氢燃料电池销量已经得到一个巨大的反弹，但是我们依然要认清一个基本的现实情况，就是氢燃料电池汽车依然处于一个非常早期的阶段，目前依然处于依靠政策支持来发展的一个起步阶段。所以整体上来讲呢，我们是采取了一个非常稳健的发展策略。那目前阻碍氢能发展的，我们觉得主要有3个方面的障碍。第一呢，虽然广泛的呼吁，但是国家目前还没有正式从立法上将氢气作为能源来管理，目前依然呢曾把氢气作为一个危险化学品来对待，这从顶层设计上来讲呢，相当于对氢气的发展极为不利。第二，相较于电动汽车，氢燃料电池汽车，不管是车辆本身还是燃料成本，目前都显著的高于电动车。这个也是阻碍氢燃料电池汽车发展的一个非常大的障碍。但是我们也看到，也相信，随着国家各项支持政策的不断落实，技术的不断进步，国产化替代的不断提高，规模效应的不断累积，我们相信氢燃料电池汽车和氢燃料的成本都将会在未来得到非常显著的降低。第三，具体到加氢站的建设，依据目前的政策，依然是需要商业用地方可进行加氢站的建设运营，或者是只能够面向内部客户来建设内部的加氢站。那么这一点呢，也是对加氢站的发展是一个非常大的阻碍。特别是在氢燃料电池氢能行业机和氮这个问题非常严峻的时候，如果加氢站的网络布局不能够迅速的发展和完善的话呢，对整个氢能产业的发展都是致命的阻碍。那对未来的思考，我们喜微呢认为说，首先是要非常密切的关注整个产业的发展。具体到加氢站，我们主要有3个方向。第一，继续以目前这种轻资产合作的方式拓展合作方，不断累积经验，扩大影响力。第二，是为像公交公司、物流公司这样具有一定数量的氢燃料电池汽车的企业来配套建设加氢站，避免加氢站建设以后又迟迟没有客户来供应，出现巨额亏损的这样的一个投资情况。第三呢，积极谋求与油氢合建站的机会， 大家知道，加油站目前的盈利能力是比较稳健的。那如果是油氢核电站的这个方向，相当于是以油养氢，当期靠加油站的盈利来弥补加氢站的亏损，同时呢又能够抓住未来氢能可能的快速发展机会，既赢得当下，又赢得未来。我的分享完毕，谢谢大家。
Thank you, Alan Liu, for your interesting presentation. Then we move on to the last speaker before the start of our interactive discussion session. And the last speaker today is Xiufei Ao, an active Dutch fuel cell specialist in China, who gives his insights on the latest hydrogen developments in China and the country's future hydrogen plans.
Thank you, Fons. Thanks for inviting me to this webinar to share my experience in the hydrogen sector. So my name is Xiufei Ao. I'm a Dutch national working here a couple of years here in China in the hydrogen and fuel cell sector. So from my name, you already would have guessed that I am not a Dutch person, but although I'm a Dutch national. Originally, I was born in Hong Kong in the 1970s, and in 1980, me and my family, we moved to the Netherlands, and I grew up in Amsterdam. There, I have spent my time during my primary school, secondary school, in downtown Amsterdam, and starting in the 1991, I started studying in Delft. So there, I spent 10 years of my life in Delft. Fortunately, got 2 degrees, both my master as well as my PhD. Then I moved to Germany, worked as a postdoc researcher, and then in 2015 came back to the Netherlands. In 2013, got the opportunity to move to Switzerland, living in the beautiful south of Switzerland, nice sceneries, nice food. But at some point, we decided to leave Switzerland to live in China. And the reason is because of fuel cell and hydrogen energy. So as my professional life has been led by fuel cell and hydrogen. So this is also the reason why we moved from one place to another, from Delft to Jülich, back to Arnhem, and then to Switzerland, and now finally to China. So in the 1990s, I was studying material science engineering, and already for my master's, I was working on the corrosion protections of the metallic bipolar plates in the multi-carbonate fuel cells. And later, I'll got my PhD degree on the high temperature fuel cell system design. Continued to that work, I went to Germany, to research center Jülich, at the time working on the 20 kilowatt system. As you see there at the bottom, that's a picture of the eventually that system become online somewhere in 2010. But at that time, still working of balance on plant components, how to make these components not available on the market. Think of something like an afterburner, heat exchangers, but also things like a reformer. 2015, I decided to go back to the Netherlands and join the company Netstek. It was a very exciting time, young company. We just spent out a couple of years earlier from Nobel. There are a lot of pioneer work, things to be done, and because of my background, I got the opportunity to work there as the technical application manager, work on many very interesting projects. Stack support on companies to how to use the stack, but also on collaborations project to make demos. Think of, for example, the red fuel cell generators you see on the top, which is the purity together with Bredenort, where we have demonstrated this system, for example, during the Lowlands Music Festival, but also a project with the governments like Rijkswaterstaat, where we have an SP project working on a fuel cell, so zero emission power generator running on bioethanol. In 2015, I said I had the opportunity to move to Switzerland, still working on many interesting projects like putting an SOFC system with a telecom radio. The system you see on top is the European project On-Site, where demonstrated the SOFC technology on the telecom communications in the south of Italy, where we're powering radios, but also working on SOFC to power data centers, which you see at the bottom. So this is a data center fully powered by gas. And it's for the company Microsoft at the headquarters in Seattle. So that's the world's first gas-powered data center where it got demonstrated. In 2018, I got the opportunity to go to China. Why China? Because this is the place where the development is happening. My China adventure started actually earlier, even at the time when I was working in 2010. There was also back at the time, there was great interest for fuel cell and hydrogen technology. There were needs for zero-emission products, like, for example, at that time, like telecom backup systems. Just to show how fast dynamic things happens is that in October 11, we got finally the official agreements. Agreements were signed, and then immediately we started to send out the technical documentations and parts and technical exchange. By the end of November, me and one of my colleagues, we flew into Beijing. We landed in Monday morning and started to work on the system. It's many things needs to be improvised at that time. So after a couple of days, fortunately, we got a prototype system running. And this is something you see here on the right. It looks quite chaotic because there's many things need to be improvised. But then that date, we had basically a deadline. That system was running on December 3rd, because on December 4th, I need to take the plane back to the Netherlands, being at Pakjesavond back in Holland to celebrate it with my daughter. So this is how fast and dynamic things is going in China, and later we follow up with support for the system development, data from how the system works. This is something remote, but also on site. For example, in the middle, you see a field trial that was doing for the system, understanding how the users are using the products, what are the problems that need to be solved. But still, the technology part happened very fast. As I said, in 2010, we had the first functional demo. Already in August 2011, we is the company here in China with our support, got the full certifications of that product. Just to show how fast and dynamic things here in China is. And a couple of years later, as I said, I was living in Switzerland, and then I got the opportunity to go to China. And the opportunity I got is to join a automotive OEMs to set up the developments and the manufacturing for the fuel cell drivetrain. And you need to think of this company is producing between 300,000 to 400,000 vehicles per year, of which 25,000 of these vehicles are battery electric vehicles. My objective is to develop an in-house development stack platform and also a manufacturing line. So for me, I set the targets to produce 1,000 vehicles per year, because by that I could manage to plan what they call the takt time, how much product I need to produce per working days, but also, for example, when we look at the stack, how many cell plates I would need to produce, how many gaskets, how many MEAs. This is very important. And finally, also a product development roadmap. And I said this is a very dynamic market, so you always need to think of what is the roadmap, what is the next step, what is the next product. So I said, very exciting time. So we started with the PEM FC stack, but also the system and vehicle integrations. So my task is mainly on the PEM fuel cell stack and the system, because this is part which is lacking. Going into vehicle integrations, this is already something that the company already possesses. But here is also then the interactions with the local Chinese people, local engineers, to how to solve all these technical problems. First of the milestone is a working demo vehicles. It's important here, this is a working demo vehicle. It's not a mock-up, because now we're talking about 2019, 2020. There are many experts, many people with know-how, and people can see through what is a mock-up and what is a real thing. So this is really a real car. And also we need to follow up as at next product development to have more product, next vehicle platform, how this vehicle development will continue. Also, what is very important is development of the local supply chain, because the technology itself, its importance, but we need to think of a product. So therefore, the whole supply chain from parts, think of MEA, but also during the development, how to make a what's called a soft prototype, functional prototype with very low cost, gaskets, and also into things like a first small series, like a sample A. I see for this part great opportunities for Dutch companies, because also from here in China, people typically think very fast in large numbers, but then the roadmap from functional prototypes to large volumes, but then having the possibility to tune the technology, to change, for example, your supply chain, to change the technology. This is something that it's, I think that this would be a great opportunity for Dutch companies to participate and to work together on this field. Nowadays, I'm working for a government-owned company, so I'm not working in the vehicle industry anymore, although I'm still working on hydrogen energy and fuel cells. Still, very recently, we have a fuel cell laboratory commissions, which is part of the incubation sites. And when I look around, I see many things happening. I said, on the left upper right, you will see the building where our hydrogen centers laboratory is located. But on the same incubation sites, I can see also integration companies work on fuel cells. For example, you see here the large lorry placing a fuel cell system on a vehicle chassis. I see many hydrogen fuel cell vehicle, buses, small trucks, but you can also see large trucks. For example, these green vehicles with, it's really big in terms of size, but these vehicles are today being built as fleets, and roll out of this technology is real. This is something that's happening here in Guangzhou. So there are many things happening right now here in Guangzhou. So this is China of today, because China nowadays, we are very much aware of climate. So the central government also sets targets to be carbon neutral by 2060. In order to reach that, we need also action plans, blueprints, 5-year plans. How are we going to reach that objectives in small steps, but then in a pace which suits China? So there are many opportunities, and many things are happening right now. In terms of opportunities, so I borrowed this from the internet, from the National Renewable Energy Lab, just to show how diverse and in all the aspects which involve which are opportunities for Dutch company to participate. Going into energy, for example, power generation, power storage, but also energy upgrade. Think of power to gas, power to fuel. in industry, decarbonizations, which is also a very, very hot topic here in the Netherlands. This is also something that what China needs, and also welcome companies with the technological know-how to collaborate. Chemicals, productions of raw chemicals, useful chemicals. Finally, transportation, that is something that we see in the news, pictures I've shown. Transportation, distribution of hydrogen, fuel cell vehicles and fleet, but also things like operations and maintenance. And the Chinese government is also very supportive. There are many, many initiatives for international collaborations, for example, with the European Chamber of Commerce. Where a workshop is being held, European companies are invited to connect with the Chinese companies, but also like webinars being organized by the Innovation Office and the Dutch Consul General. There are many, many initiatives to bring the Dutch industry together with the Chinese industry together and to collaborate. So in conclusion, China is unique. Things are happening very fast. It's very, very dynamic and diverse. So, and it offers also great opportunities in all sectors. And since things are happening that fast, I would really invite people to come over here in China to take a look and witness what's happening. And my advice for the Dutch industry and technology owners is also try to get involved as quickly as possible, because things are happening really, really fast. And the earlier you are here to participate, the easier. So that will be my presentation of my experience here in China. So thanks very much for your time.
Thank you very much for your presentation and expert insights, Xiufai Ao. We have hereby come to the end of the pre-recorded presentation session. And before we move on to the interactive discussion session, I wish to thank you all speakers one more time for their great insights during the past hour. Also, I would like to remind everybody in the audience that next week at the same time will be the second episode of this 4-episode webinar series with the topic Hydrogen Innovation Projects in the Netherlands, where we will partner with TKI New Gas and we will focus on a more general introduction into the Dutch hydrogen sector and zoom in on the latest policy updates, developments, and recent impressive Dutch projects. We very much look forward to seeing you next week as well. Links on how to sign up and how to reach out to us can be found in the chat room of this Zoom webinar, in the description of the YouTube broadcast, and via the links that we will show you at the end of our session when the cameras are off. Thank you very much. Now, let us move on to the live interactive session with all our speakers and panelists with Chinese and English simultaneous translation. All right, thank you very much, everyone. Also, thank you to the panelists for being already present and with us, answering questions in the Q&A. I've stopped the screen sharing, and I would like to kindly ask our panelists to start their video so our audience can all see that you are present and live with us. Because we're a little bit behind schedule, please allow me to start off straight with going into questions. And the first question I would actually like to ask our Consul General of the Consulate General of the Kingdom of the Netherlands in Guangzhou, who is here with us today. Mr. Michiel Bierkens, as a first question to you, as Consulate General of the Kingdom of the Netherlands in Guangzhou, perhaps you can tell something to the audience on how the consulate supports Dutch hydrogen companies in this region.
Thank you, Fons. And first of all, it's great to see that so many participants have joined this webinar today. I think it's an excellent example of economic diplomacy, and it brings me to the answer to your question. Obviously, webinars like these are one example, just one example of how we can assist Dutch companies that are seeking opportunities in the hydrogen sector here in South China. Maybe at the outset,
Two points. First of all, economic diplomacy is one of the key functions of our Consulate General here. And the second point is I would invite Dutch companies to contact us, to reach out to us. Very often I have seen that companies are a bit reluctant or a bit hesitant to reach out to us. I would really here invite everybody who has a question, who seeks advice on hydrogen activities in South China, to reach out to us, because as I said, it's one of our key roles here. Now, what do we do? Actually, there's a lot that we can do. For instance, we can advise the sector in the Netherlands about relevant policy developments here in South China that impact their business here. We can also arrange B2B, business-to-business matchmaking sessions here in South China. Typically, it will be offline, but in times of COVID-19, we've been quite successful, not only in the hydrogen sector, but also in other sectors, to arrange online matchmaking sessions between Dutch companies and Chinese partners here. It's matchmaking, it's sectoral reports that we can share. We also organize network events, again, with those companies that are already present here in China. We bring them together and make sure there's an ambience where people can meet and exchange experience and get contacts that may ultimately lead to further cooperation. Another thing that we can do is individual advice, troubleshooting. It may be that a company has an issue, be it with the local government, be it with a Chinese partner. We can help, we can advise, and we can, well, not make sure, but at least put those Dutch companies on the right track. Again, very much these days is online, but we hope, of course, that the time will come in not too distant future that we can have offline events here, that companies can again come from the Netherlands to China. So to sum it up, there's a lot to be done. We believe that hydrogen is a sector with huge potential for companies in the Netherlands. I would invite people to stay tuned to our webinars, and for individual questions, please feel free to reach out to us, because we are here to assist. Thank you, and it's back to you, Fons.
Thank you very much, Michiel. And I hope that if there are Dutch companies active in the hydrogen sector, interested in China, please don't hesitate to reach out to us, and we'll be happy to help. Of course, for this, you also need a more general overview of hydrogen developments in China. And for this, I would like to ask my next question to you, Ms. Wang Wanyi, because you already gave us a general introduction. And actually, through our network, we noticed there's also a lot of interest in hydrogen production projects, developments in China. And perhaps you can tell us a bit about this as well. So in what regions are currently most advanced in hydrogen production, and how can this contribute to reducing emissions in China?
Thank you, Fons. So yeah, you're absolutely right. So hydrogen production, in addition to fuel vehicle deployment, is a very interesting and also a very important area. And we see actually a surge of interest in hydrogen production projects by the developers from both within and outside of China as well. And it's actually not surprising that, of course, with the rich experience and expertise from the context of the Winter Olympics, many of the projects are located in or close to Zhangjiakou in Hebei province, as Mr. Zhao Hui already introduced. So, but like coming back to what is happening in the entire country, we know that the NDRC and NEA this year, they announced to collaborate in exploring energy storage developments. And in that, hydrogen is a very important link. So across the country, although I think a majority of the 5 or 6 already in operation hydrogen production, green hydrogen production in China, in Zhangjiakou, but there's also Baofeng has a project in the northwest of China, and also more and more new projects and cooperations being announced. I think there are statistics that by the end of May, there are 50 green hydrogen production projects announced, and a quarter of them, are focused, like announced this year. And some of the regions, for example, Inner Mongolia is one of them. And also in Jilin and Shanxi and Shandong, there are many more regions showing interest and many more new projects being located in these projects. And in terms of maybe some of the key actors, CNPC, Sinopec, and also Huaneng, etc., they are kind of setting up MOUs or already issuing tenders for their projects. And all of these, in response to your question about how will they contribute to reducing emissions, I think from the technical side, we don't need more explanation, right? By decarbonizing the power system and also buffering as storage for renewable energies. But in terms of how it interacts with the other aspects of the industry, I would say it actually, this link is very important because from UNDP's experience demonstrating the fuel cell vehicles, many cities experience a lack of hydrogen sources. So that is actually contributing to the limits of their ability to upscale their fuel cell vehicles deployments, and let alone other like new ways of using hydrogen. And it also is like deeply close to the deployment of the development of infrastructure and also hydrogen refueling stations. So once investors know that there will be sufficient and economically viable supply of hydrogen that is green, hydrogen refueling stations will be established more widely in the country, and that also contributes to the vehicle deployments. I know that transportation is only one of the three key aspects for hydrogen's role in decarbonizing our economies, but it is most market ready leg of the three aspects. So with more green hydrogen products, it will really open up the situation and also sets a solid foundation for hydrogen as a decarbonization solution. I hope that answers your question, Fons. Back to you.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Wang Wanyi. That answers it very well indeed. I think the numbers of 50 hydrogen production plants is also very impressive. And I think it shows the ambition that China has, perhaps to reach the carbon neutrality goals of 2060. Staying with you a little bit, because of course, all these developments must offer some collaboration opportunities for Dutch companies in China. Where and how do you see these opportunities? For example, what kind and in which fields?
Yes, I think with your the rich experience, and also as one of the most important hydrogen hubs in Europe, there are a lot of good projects and demonstration projects in the Netherlands that can be replicate your experiences can be replicated in China. So not only for companies like at a policy and governance level, we already can learn from like the Chinese actors can already learn from the Dutch experience. In terms of company level cooperation, so China has already developed a few leading companies for fuel cell stack and also system integrators, but for electrolysis equipment and also transportation of hydrogen. For example, you have demonstration projects of blending hydrogen into natural gas pipes. And also for renewable-based hydrogen production, China has a quite impressive coastline, and there will be a lot of experience that we can learn from the Dutch companies in terms of deploying offshore wind based hydrogen production. It can be electrolysis of seawater or using other sorts. For example, deploying like decarbonization of ports and also green shipping for maybe not maritime, but like inland, like waterways transportation as well. So I would say that actually the window of opportunity is like very significant. However, I think it's really up to companies to actually discuss into the details and also the niche cooperation areas between the two countries' actors, so that solid cooperation can be made. Currently, you already see a lot of progresses, and I think the capacity of Chinese companies in this area and the interest of the Chinese companies in this area is really sets a good environment for this kind of talks.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ms. Wang Wai. I totally agree with you, and I'm also happy to see that there is already a lot of interest and activity from the side of Dutch businesses, and I think also like Director Zheng Weidong mentioned last week during our roundtable that the UNDP can act as a catalyst, and I think the consulates and the Dutch Innovation Network in China can do a similar job in supporting businesses interested in doing business or cooperating in China. You mentioned offshore wind briefly. On a side note, we do have an offshore wind session, green hydrogen production to offshore wind, upcoming on the 22nd of September, which is also a Wednesday. You also mentioned several times Zhangjiakou, and this is a very important hub. And I'm very glad to have Mr. Zhao with us again, just like last year, talking about the latest developments in Zhangjiakou. Mr. Zhao Hui, could I also ask you a question, perhaps? Because last week we had a question from the audience that we unfortunately did not have the time to answer. But the question was, when do you think green hydrogen production will become cost competitive with traditional forms of energy?
好的，大家好，我来介绍一下张家口绿色提升的情况。因为张家口区有丰富的这个风电光伏资源，因此好多企业在张家口设立电解水制氢工厂来制取绿色氢气。比如这个大家这个比较熟悉的这个荷兰的这个壳牌公司。跟这个张家口当地的这个一个企业已经在张家口落地生产这个绿色氢气的一个电解水工厂了，已经开始项目开始建设，估计今年年底就将建成。此外，中国很多企业在张家口都设立了电解水制氢工厂，利用当地的这个风电、光伏进行滤氢生产。现在张家口这个制氢企业已经有5家左右已经开始建设这个工厂项目，今年年底就要建成，而且要服务2022年北京张家口冬奥会这个燃料电池车的这个用氢需求。目前张家口冬奥会这个计划运行这个车辆大概是600到700辆，各种车辆，包括这个大巴车、中巴车还有轿车每天这个需求的氢气量大概要9吨到8吨这个量， 现在张家口自己生产的绿色氢气已经完全能够满足这个需求。
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Zhao. I think I think Zhangjiakou is really a good example of China's ambition for green hydrogen production. And given your experience in this field, perhaps you can give us your opinion whether you think that China will take a leading role in the global production of green hydrogen and possibly will have a surplus of green hydrogen ready for export to countries such as, for example, the Netherlands.
OK，中国这个生产规模它是非常有特点的，就是容易做到世界上最大的规模。现在我们在沥青生产已经把技术路线都打通了，然后下一步就是扩大规模、扩大生产。现在这个中国这个电解水这个制取的这个工艺是成熟的，设备是目前是世界上造价是最低的，因此这个产量完全可以做到不光满足内的需求，而且在以后在长期以后这个可以把这个氢气做成液氢，而出口到国外，比如出口到日本、韩国，这都是完全可能的，而且已经有这个计划了。
Thank you very much, and I'm delighted to hear that because the port of Rotterdam is planning to be a major hydrogen hub in Europe and in the Netherlands, and they will be exporting, expectedly to import a lot of hydrogen in the future. Mr. Zhao, we have one question from the audience. Perhaps you could give your insights as well. And let me have a look real quick. So the hydrogen production in Zhangjiakou, is it all from renewable energy? And what if renewable energy sources, because they're not stable, it maybe is hard to reach high efficiency in production? Do you think it's technically and economically wise, and is it feasible?
刚才这个目前那个利用风电制氢呢，这个成本目前还是比较高于这个化石能源制氢啊，这个工业副产氢啊，就是高于这个灰氢蓝氢的这个成本。但是随着这个国内大规模的这个可再生能源发电的规模的上去，而且这个制氢技术发展，包括是这个电解水制氢的设备也会大幅下降，因此呢。这个可再生制氢的这个就是滤氢的这个成本会很快降低。我预计差不多2030年吧，然后可以做到跟灰氢就是化石能源制氢的成本是一样的啊，完全是可以做到。价格我估计差不多2030年可以做到1公斤10块钱到15块钱人民币这样的。
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Zhao. And also thank you very much to the audience for asking this good question. Going from government support and hydrogen production in north of China, I would like to give the word to Mr. Alan Liu, who works for the Dutch company SHV in Guangzhou. Last year, you were already one of our speakers, and this year, in your presentation, you mentioned a lot of challenges that SHV was facing during the last year. How do you think, for example, our consulate or local government can support you in these challenges? And maybe you can tell us a little bit on how.
因为我们公司呢和荷兰领事馆一直保持着非常好的这个沟通， 那我觉得呢，在氢能源的这个发展上来讲呢，一呢就是说，这个领事馆可以继续搭建一个交流的这个平台，因为呢，中国有一句古话叫独木不成林，特别是对于氢能产业这样一个处于起步阶段的行业，更需要有一个产业链和生态圈这样的一个打造和合作。那第二方面呢，就是对于我们新的一些氢能相关的一些项目，那么在落地的过程中呢，需要跟政府有一些非常密切的沟通。那么在这一方面呢，领事馆也可以给我们提供非常多的一些协调这样的一些支持。那我觉得在这两方面是比较这个实际的。
Yeah, thank you very much, Alan Liu, and we'll make sure to continue the support that we give to SHV in this region. Maybe you can also answer one of the questions that was asked through our network, and that is how you see the future for a possible changing LNG refueling stations into hydrogen refueling stations. From your experience, is it realistic, and where would the challenges be?
这个呢，整体上来讲呢，就是技术上来讲，实际上是没有障碍的。那么主要是政策上的一个分析。因为从加氢站角度来讲呢，目前呢分两种，一种是商业化运行、对外经营的加氢站。那这样的话，它对用地啊、规划呀都有非常严格的要求。那另外一类呢，实际上是服务于自己的，叫内部的加氢站。这一块呢，相对来讲比较灵活，对用地啊规划没有特别的要求。那么对于液化天然气加气站呢，如果它的用地是符合要求的，那么因为各地也在支持加氢站的规划，所以规划上的障碍应该不大。从这个转面上来讲呢，应该是比较容易的。但是对于一些由于历史原因，它的用地，比如说是非商业用地这样的一些液化天然气的加气站呢，想转变的话呢，那么就需要当地的政府有一些特殊性的支持政策才可以转变。否则的话呢，是拿不到这个经营的这些许可的。那我们相信呢，比如说以广州为例啊，广州呢政府现在也在起草相关的专项支持性文件，对于一些现有的加油站、加气站的转变成为这个加氢站呢，都有一些非常支持的政策，目前在起草和征求意见。所以总体上来讲呢，障碍不是说特别大。
Thank you very much, Mr. Alan Liu. That sounds both challenging and promising for the opportunities in the future, especially with the continuous increasing rise of fuel cell vehicles in the South China area. Before I go to my questions for you, Mr. Xiufai Ao, I have one more question for Mr. Liu of SHV, because during the presentation of Mr. Xiufai Ao, he mentioned he was drawn to China because of the dynamic market and the opportunities here. And I think SHV, who was relatively early already active in the hydrogen market, in South China. Do you agree with the opinion of Xiufai? And perhaps you'd like to add anything? Perhaps any advice you'd like to give to Dutch companies that are planning on entering the Chinese hydrogen market?
我非常同意刚才欧博士的观点啊。我个人也认为呢，未来的几年之内，中国呢非常有希望成为全球最大的这个氢能产业的这个市场。那么主要有以下几个原因。第一呢，就是中国市场本身就足够大。第二呢，中国的这个政府的这个政策啊，是有非常多这种财政方面的支持，产业引导方面的支持。中国政府在这方面的这个效率啊非常高，支持力度呢也是非常实际。所以呢，就是说，这一块对氢能产业的这个启动和腾飞啊，是一个非常好的助力。第三个原因呢，就是中国具有非常完善的这个产业链，那么和足够的应用场景，这样有助于这样 氢能产业的一些相关的产品技术可以实现快速的迭代，保持一个非常强的竞争力。这个是我认为说中国是一个非常充满对于氢能产业发展来讲非常具有这个非常多机会这样的一个国家。那么对荷兰企业进入中国呢，我有3个建议。第一个建议呢，就是说优先选择就是目前国家这个发布的这个氢能产业发展示范区。那首批的话呢，京津冀、上海和广东是列为这个示范区，后面还有其他的一些城市会列入示范区。这样的地方呢，有足够的政策配套，有足够的这个市场的支持，也有相应的这个产业链支撑。这是第一个建议。第二个建议呢，就是聚焦在自己有优势的这样的一些环节或者是产品。因为中国呢，这个氢能产业的这个竞争啊是非常激烈的。那要这样一个激烈的竞争中获得这个生存发展的话呢，必须要有自己核心的一个优势跟竞争力。第3个建议呢，是要和中国包括所有在中国从事氢能业务这样的一些公司、一些机构形成一个产业链的合作，形成一个生态圈的这样的一个发展模式。因为单靠任何一个单一环节或者单一产品呢，很难实现说快速的发展，必须要抱团才能够促使这个产业能够快速的走向成熟。那这是我的这个3个建议。
Thank you very much, Mr. Liu. I think these 3 tips you gave are very valuable for Dutch companies thinking of entering the Chinese market. So thank you very much again. Mr. Ao, Mr. Xufai Ao, would you like to add anything to this? I know you already mentioned your opinion on not to forget the Chinese market because it is so dynamic and that this is what drove you to China. But maybe you'd like to add a little bit to what Mr. Liu said, or any advice for Dutch companies trying to explore the Chinese hydrogen market?
Yes, absolutely. The thing what I want to add is, as mentioned by a couple of speakers today, that the hydrogen energy sector is still immature, means that it's still being shaped. So therefore, the landscape of today is still being formed. And this offers great opportunities for companies, technology owners to come here to help shaping this landscape. And the earlier you are here, the easier would be for this company to enter in this market. So therefore, that is the reasons why I would suggest for the companies to come here as fast as possible. The opportunities will be there because the market is real. Nevertheless, the earlier you're here, the easier, and also to understand also the differences between the market in China versus the market in Europe and in the Netherlands, because there are things that are taking place differently. And some laws and regulations and norms are also different. So therefore, by being here, you understand much better the market, and therefore you get a much more grasp of what's going on here, participate, and it's helped you to bring your product, your technology into a success.
Yeah, thank you very much. Excuse me, did you want to add anything else?
No, that's it.
All right, thank you. And I think because you left China at 2010 and then you came back in 2018, if I understood your story correctly, I think you must have seen some differences and changes in the Chinese hydrogen market. And knowing the developments went very quickly, did you expect the hydrogen developments in China to go so quickly, and perhaps you noticed some major differences?
Well, I think if you look at the time between 2010 and 2018, because it's already like 8 years, and things are happening very fast. This is something that I was fully aware of. So therefore, when I come back, when it comes to China, I didn't have any expectations. The only thing, I was open to see what's happening here. I was open to participate, to support basically what's happening here in China. But of course, you see a great change into the product, because at first we were targeting back in 2010 on the telecom market, and now when I came here in China in 2018, it was more into the transportation. So therefore, there is a big change into the applications of the PEM fuel cells. What is a major difference compared to 10 years ago and now is that people here in China has much and much more knowledge about the technology. I see that as a great development in people's knowledge, products, engineers. So this is something that I've noticed as a major step between 2010 and 2018. Even now from 2018, in the 3 years time that I've been here, I see also great development also in the technology, in the people, and in the knowledge. So things are happening really fast, and therefore it's actually also very easy for companies in the Netherlands with the technology to speak with the people here, because we are speaking the same technical engineering language. So compared to 2010, when we arrived here and need to explain to the people what we are doing, now they are much more a discussion partners. So therefore, the opportunities now is very much a partnership. This is the major difference I've seen compared into the two, almost a decade difference in company development.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Xu Hao, to share this experience with us and the audience. Looking at the time, I would like to ask the final question to you. And I know that your expertise is hydrogen fuel cells, but last week we also received a question from the Dutch network asking about the latest technological developments of electrolysis in China. So I would like to ask you if you have noticed any recent developments in the field of electrolysis in China, and perhaps you could tell us something about the current state of the local technology.
Well, I see clearly there's a need for electrolysis technology. As Ms. Wang mentions, there is, because of the rollout of the fleets, there is need for hydrogen, in particular green hydrogen. And the electrolysis play a major role in providing hydrogen for these zero-emission vehicles. Technology-wise, currently, my understanding is that the alkaline technology here in China is mature. So the PEM electrolysis is now being in development, and also the high temperature solid oxide technology is now upcoming. So clearly there is a development in new technology, state-of-the-art technology is happening here in China, and all is targets to support the decarbonizations, reduce the CO2 emission here in China. So electrolysis will be a technology that is taking up speed very fast.
Okay, thank you very much, Xu Hao. And we've come to the end of our session. We had the 1 hour presentation session and the half-hour Q&A session in the form of this live discussion. I'd wish to thank everybody. And just as last week, unfortunately, we did not have time to answer every question in the Q&A, but we did write them down. Some questions were not really related to this session, but more related to next week's session. For example, a question that we received about Dutch fuel cell technology in the view of liquid hydrogen storage, and the current state of research. So these type of questions will be answered next week during our session about hydrogen in the Netherlands and an introduction of the latest innovative projects, namely the Hydrogen Valley in north of the Netherlands, the Port of Rotterdam region, who are very active in hydrogen developments, as well as a presentation from the New Energy Coalition. And we have Han Veenstra, who will talk about a general overview of hydrogen in the Netherlands and the policy updates. So we sincerely hope to see you again next week at the same time, Wednesday, 4 o'clock China's time, or 10 o'clock in the morning Dutch time. Thank you very much, and see you next week. Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Liu, Ms. Wang, Mr. Xiu Fai, and Mr. Zhao.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye. I will stay online a little bit longer to make sure I've copied all the questions, and we'll send you the individual videos separately afterwards, and give you an update of the follow-up sessions. Thank you very much again.
Okay, thanks very much. Thanks very much. We'll
Thanks,
keep in touch.
We're getting more professional every time.
Goodbye.